Awkward.
Hey, welcome to Awkward Aquaponics. In sourcing some tilapia for our system, we recently had the chance to visit the Aquaculture Center of Excellence at Lethbridge College. It was a quick trip, but we were able to learn a lot about how they conduct experiments, what they do to keep their water so clean, as well as how they're using bioreactors to move towards a zero-waste campus. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit subscribe right down there. Let's check it out.
I'm gonna keep my mask on anyway.
So,
Yeah.
how many years has this Aquaculture Center of Excellence been running?
The Center of Excellence has been running for about 24 years.
Wow.
I've been here for 25. And first of all, we did carp here. I don't know if you remember the carp program that we had. We brought the fish in,
Okay.
we spawned them, and then we sterilized them through a pressure shocking. And anyways, they went all over the province in the dugouts, right? And so after we got out of that, like the government basically said they didn't want any exotic species in the province anymore, that were going to go into the dugouts and things like that. And so that really that shut everything down. And so we didn't know which way we were going to go. So we headed out towards the working on aquaponics. And Nick Savadov was working in Brooks with aquaponics. He's been working with them for the last 20 years or so. And so we got him to come and be with us here. We did a grant, a 5-year grant for the government to show that this does work. We take the manure from these fish, we break it down, and then we take that liquid fertilizer and we can use it on our systems again. We're selling it right now on the market, and it's for a jug that's a liter jug. It's at $25, but it also dilutes down into 40 times.
Right.
So that's all you use, right? So that's your nutrient.
And it's all like organic?
It's all organic. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no, yeah, we can't use any pesticides or herbicides in here because of the fish again, and because of our plants as well.
Right.
So let's go over here and just stand here for a second. So each one of these systems has about 80 liters of water in them. So they're all recirculating at the same time. There's a fish in each one usually. And then we have 3 grow beds. So about almost a meter of grow bed space, right? And so what we can do is we can start that fish up. We can start feeding that fish. And then we get a biofilter, a biochar filter as well. And then we got a sump down there and that water gets pumped up. Just the same thing as what you guys have at your school, right? It's just a smaller scale. But we've got replication of 20 of those, right? And so we can do an experiment, say we want to have four different experiments we want to do at the same time, going at the same time. We can have 5 replicates of that, right? And so that allows us to be able to get the information very, very quickly and have that continuity between that as well, saying, yes, that really worked out because we've got 5 replicates now. If they all say the same thing, we've done our experiments right.
So let's pause right there and talk quickly about why they have a lot of the same things throughout the facility. They are a research facility first, not a production facility, so multiples of the same thing serves a different purpose. Clay talked about replicates, and I know in my science class I use the term trials a lot. The big idea is that a one-off experiment, though useful, isn't enough on its own to give the experimenters meaningful data. Having more space allows them to replicate experiments at the same time and also gives them the ability to compare more variables in the experiments that they are doing. Clay's also going to show us their mini systems in a minute, where again they have a lot of these in order to conduct multiple experiments at the same time. These are cool little systems consisting of the biofilter and deep water culture growing area. One of the amazing things is they haven't had the water changed in 17 years. So let's check that out.
But these ones over here are mini systems now. These have been going for about, I think it's 17 years, the water in here. We haven't changed the water out. We just add water to it. And the beauty of that is the older the system, the older your system gets, the better it becomes, because there's more microbes and more populations that take up a little niche, right? When you first start out, there's only maybe a couple of types of bacteria that you're housing in here, but later on it starts to break down and get more and more different populations in there and allows you to have a better system, right? So your nutrients are going to be recycled better and brought back into the system for your plants to go. What we're doing here right now is there's a bunch of different lights that we're working with. We want to find out what the growth rate of different plants are at different lights. We want to keep the PAR reading, which is the photosynthesis reading, at the same level. And so you'll see that these lights are different heights. That's to keep this about 250 PAR is what we're working with. And so we've figured out that the big lights that you have, your high bay lights, work just about as good as any of the other lights that we have. And so that's what we're trying to prove right now, is to be able to say, hey, it's a cheaper way to run with these LED lights now that you can get. It's getting better. The economy on these are getting better all the time, right? And so we've been playing around with that, just checking that out and seeing what we can see, because we've always run on the high pressure sodium with most of our greenhouses because that's what's been available. But now in our time, as things are getting better all the time, we're being able to get these LED lights. Most of the towns have switched over all their old lights to LED lights now. There's less maintenance on them. There's less power that's being consumed as well, right? And so that's all good things. Those are all good economic things that we can need to bring into play. This is probably something else that we want to take a look at. This is biochar.
Right.
You see how clean our water is?
Yeah.
All our water is run through these biochar beds, and we're capturing all that debris that's in the water, whether it be fish waste or other bacterial flock or whatever. It'll catch it in there, and that bacteria is going to break that back down into a liquid form again and release it back into our system. So our nitrates are high, which is okay, but at the same time our water is nice and clean that the fish don't have to worry about breathing that in all the time.
So this water feeding in is coming from the tanks?
Yep, this is coming from the tanks. Back here, they'll drain back
that's the clean water
to the clean water here, and it gets pumped back out into the system. Yeah. So this is an up and coming thing more and more all the time. I think we're going to see more biochar being used,
right?
Because you can clean up your water so much better.
Right. Like as opposed to like mechanical bead filters?
As opposed to bead filters, or as opposed to sand filters, things like that, right? These are way better. These just, because it's so porous, the bacteria get right inside that pores and they can be able to do their job. Right. And this also acts like a, what do you call a mechanical filter as well as a biological filter, right? So you've got all your bacteria that's in here working for you is doing those two jobs for you.
Hey, I'm back. We'll get back to that in a second, but I did want to talk a bit about what exactly biochar is and why it's so great. Biochar is basically what you get when you burn organic matter in a low oxygen environment. Depending on what you're using to make biochar, it might be slightly different, but what makes it so great in this application is the surface area and porosity of the material. The relative surface area is huge, so there's lots of places for beneficial microbes to populate and for nitrification to take place. In our system, we're using this hydron to do this, and you can see here all the little crevices where microbes can live. If you can imagine breaking this up with a hammer and getting all that extra surface area, that's biochar. They're operating on a pretty large scale, and one thing I found interesting was how they applied it through high pressure misters. I know some of the stuff I've read said that biochar will suck up nitrogen in systems, and I wish I would have asked how it affects their nitrogen levels and why it's so effective while we were actually there.
Solution. This is the waste. This is all the waste from the school. So vegetable waste that they have over there.
No way.
We bring that back in here. We put it all in here, and we bring the temperature up to a good temperature where the bacteria are comfortable. And we also inject oxygen in here, so that what we're using is we want anaerobic bacteria working for us. We don't want anaerobic. Right? So you don't have that smell. You can smell it. It just smells that earthy smell. This is almost ready to go. So what we will do is we'll take this, we'll put a flocculant in there, so it'll pull all those particles together, make them heavy, and settle out, and they'll become a clear liquid on the top. And then we'll take that liquid, put it back into a big barrel back here, and be able to use that in our aquaponics again.
Oh. So is this tied to, this isn't tied to like the filtration or any of
this is not, no, these are batch bioreactors.
Right, this is like the best composting system like a facility could have.
Each little system that you have here has got a certain amount of nutrient put into it and then broke down. But it's about 3 weeks to a month to take and break all that fiber down, or that material down that's in here. So there's fish waste in here. There's the waste products that we have from the kitchen. We bring that in here. It's all weighed, of course, and then put in here as a dry matter. And then we know how much we're putting into here. And then we can get rid of that. So we're trying to look at a zero waste campus. Up into compost, but we lose so much in compost, we lose a lot of our nutrients. Whereas here it's trapped here. The bacteria break it all down, and then at the end, when there's no food source left anymore, they start to die and they spill their guts. And then we end up with all that nutrient. That nitrates is what we're really after, right?
So that's the end of our tour. Clay was so great in being willing to show us around. They do have another couple of buildings, one of them being their greenhouse that we weren't able to check out. And you can find some of those places online. After that, we packed up our tilapia and we hit the road. If you want to see what that was like and how we transported them 200 kilometers, again, make sure you hit subscribe because that video is coming next. Catch you next time.
Awkward.